Hello, this is Lisa and this is my channel, Summonart. This is a video on how I made my introduction that you just saw flash past there in about 9 seconds. It took me about over an hour to do this, and it was pretty much all done using Apple's Keynote software, which you'll see me opening just there. So basically what I've got here is a green screen which can be dropped in on top of things in iMovie. So you put it on top of the footage that you have, and then you will get an option to basically it will come up above your video where you can see it playing, and you come down with a drop down menu which goes to blue/green screen, and you select that, and then means it puts text or whatever you have on the green screen directly onto your content, which just plays directly underneath. So to begin with, I thought I might use a green screen for my introduction and just have the logo pop up on it. So I'm just dragging the logo in here, and I can kind of see I've still got a white background on it, which was a little bit annoying, so I was actually able to remove that within Keynote. I didn't even know you could do this, but you can just edit mask like I did there, and you go into the image, and then I believe you select a colour you want to get rid of, and then make it transparent, and then there we go, it's round. And that's how I obviously want my logo to look, because the white bit behind it, surprise surprise, is not actually part of it. So yeah, if I left it like this, it meant it would have just appeared directly on top of whatever video was playing, which could have worked, but I decided I was gonna go for something a little bit different. Here I'm just fiddling around with the animation effects, just trying to figure out what would be the best one to have the logo appear as. So you can see me messing around with shimmer a bit here, and this is a build-in effect, so it's how the logo first appears. And then I found sparkle, and this is kind of the type of animation that I stuck with. I've piddled around with the other one. Fiddled, I think is what the word I was looking for, around with the other animations, but I didn't really like them as much. Just some of them don't look very professional, or don't look exactly how I want my channel to come across as. So because I've got my name as Summonart, and summoning a creature is a magical type of thing, I felt like the sparkle was a good way to go, because it looked like it was just appearing sort of out of nowhere, like it had been cast as a spell or something. That was kind of how I thought about that one. And then I kind of tried to see if it should do anything while it was on screen, and you can see it kind of appears in or as the sparkle's happening there. So yeah, I just kind of fiddled around with the opacity to see if it should disappear and come back in. So yeah, ease in is what I've chosen there. And then of course you can go to the play option at the top, sort of in the middle of the screen. You can see the play icon there, on the left to just see what the animation looks like. There's another slightly different one, Jiggle. There's some really funny animations in Keynote. And it kind of depends on what sort of feeling you're going for. If you want something that's a bit silly, or if you want it to be dramatic, or if you're after sort of a bit of pizzazz. I don't even don't ask. I don't even know why I've said pizzazz, but yeah, it just makes it look a bit fancier. Yeah, and see, there's a crumble effect there, and I'm also looking at the build out, which is how the image would sort of disappear. You can see I've got sparkle in and then crumble or dissolve out, I think, diffuse out. But I did end up deciding that I already had an effect as the image came in, and I didn't really need another one for it disappearing, because I just felt like that was a bit much. Didn't really need it. It looked quite good as it was. But still, see me fiddling with different things here. I've got dissolve, and that's just a fade there that I've gone for, which could have worked. But yeah, in the end up, I did decide to just go with sparkle and just leave it at that. So next, what I moved on to is looking at some text for summonart. So I had a look at the different text options, then decided to open up the end card I'd made for myself for other videos to see if I could use a font that I'd already used to make it consistent, but I didn't really like most of the other things that I'd used, and now I just made it white and got it to a size where I was happy people would actually be able to read it. Yeah, this is still too small. So I started looking through my options. I changed the casing to lowercase on and the RT, so because that's what I liked on my font. And I went through quite a few different options, but there was one I found at the beginning, this font, that I quite liked, and that's what I ended up sticking with. So I decided not to use the green screen. You can see here that I went in the slide layout options and used the background bit to kind of change the colours around a little bit. Started off with a black, then went to a blue, and then decided maybe a gradient would be nicer. And yeah, I did quite like this blue actually, but then I thought the text didn't stand out enough, so I tried a darker blue. But then I thought maybe I could make it a bit more like my logo and use my brand colours, and I used the colour picker tool to actually pick out my orange colour and put that at the top. But I didn't really like how the gradient looked from doing that, so I then used the colour picker to pick the blue from the hat up and put that into my colour palette that you can see underneath the colour wheel there. And then I fiddled around with the different settings you can do for the gradients and used radial, and used linear gradient on there on the advanced background fill. And then I tried to use textures. So I used advanced image fill, which basically puts a picture in the background, and you can use that as a texture with a colour sort of being used with it. because I quite like this marbly look, and I thought the dark grey there looked quite nice actually. Then I tried my orange again and decided that didn't really work. And then proceeded to fiddle around with it a bit more. As I have been doing through this whole thing, just kind of experimenting, trying to see what works and what doesn't. And I decided after a little bit that this didn't. So basically I pulled in another image of a starry sky that I'd got from the interwebs, and I pulled that in and sort of fiddled around with the advanced image fill a little bit and tried some different colours out, which you can see I'm doing here, having a bit of fun with it. Yay, fun time. Fun time with colours. I kind of decided I liked the original image look quite a bit, so I muted it a little bit before deciding to kind of bring the original image back in, if you can see me doing here, and then just sort of scaling it so it looks right. And then I got the opacity and I changed it a little bit so you could still see the starry sky, but you could see a little bit more of the bluey background to sort of mute it, but exaggerate the tree silhouettes, exaggerate the stars, so that all looked a lot better. Next I moved back onto the text and tried to make it stand out a little bit more by adding an effect and put a shadow under it, which is done under the formatting and style in the text. So you can see I've got a contact shadow going on there, and the white text stands out quite a lot anyway, so I think I was just messing around with it for the sake of it. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I don't always know when to leave things alone. This is a case in point where I put a white line around my text, and it really did not need the white line, and I fiddled around with the strokes and changing it to make it look more drawn, and I came to the conclusion that it was not necessary and got rid of it. Of course. So yeah, and now I'm just sort of moving things about, trying to satisfy myself that everything is central. And now I play it to kind of see what it looks like as a final result. Now there's a few things I want to bring up here. One being the image I'm using is a copyright-free image. I did make sure to get one that I wasn't going to get into any trouble over using. And the other is, the reason I chose to use Keynote was because I considered using something more complex. I was going to use an animation program and do maybe a proper little stop motion of my avatar moving. But you know what? To have an effective sort of animation, it doesn't actually need to be complicated. I mean, I was looking at Jazz's animations of his introduction into his videos, and I was like, I want to do something like that. But I mean, I'm only just starting out on YouTube, and maybe in the future I will do something that looks a bit more like that, but for now Keynote is fine, and you can make something that looks pretty good and it looks quite professional using this software. It's not the first thing you'd think to use for an animation, but it does work. So yes, anyway, you can see here I'm messing around with how the text comes in, and playing it to see how it looks. Added a fade into the profile picture again, which I tried earlier and I didn't like, so I don't know why I've brought that back. I say I didn't like it. It was fine, but I just decided it wasn't necessary. Yeah, I quite liked this sort of writing the text in effect. But in the end, I decided to use the same effect that I used on my profile picture. So yeah, you can see both of those coming in. So I'm just playing it to see what the sparkle looks like, and I've got both of them fading out as well. Decided to carry on with the fade out thing because I did kind of like the look of it when both of them were doing it. And then I exported the presentation as a little animation, but I did not stop here because what I wasn't quite satisfied with was the fact that the image and the text weren't coming in at the same time. So I decided the best way of fixing this would be to open up the images in Photoshop, bring them both in after choosing Web Most Common for my Photoshop size, and I named it Intro Animation YouTube. So you can see here I've got my artboard. So now I'm just going to bring in the images that I need. And I kind of realised after I brought the images into Photoshop, because I was intending to make an animation there, that maybe I didn't actually need to do that. And I was just overcomplicating things again, so I went back and went into Keynote, and then I realised I could actually group the two objects together. Then I could add an effect to both of them and they would both appear in at the same time. So that is exactly what I was after. Then I had to just decide if I wanted the fade effect or dissolve effect or not. So just previewing it there. Sort of changing the duration a bit, because the other thing I wasn't too sure of is how long an introduction should actually last. And when I did a little research on it, apparently it's good to have it last about 9 seconds, which doesn't sound like long, but it is long enough to do an introduction. So now I just saved that as my final project. So I did decide to actually go with the fade towards the end, which you can see here. This is the 9-second clip, and what I want to introduce to you next is something called Tyson time. I had a video which just had Tyson in it called Cat versus Box, but at the beginning of that it does say introducing Tyson time. What that basically is just a little clip of our cat being a bit silly, because I thought it would be a nice fun thing to add to the end of the videos, for you guys to watch maybe as part of the end card. So yeah, that's what this will be. So I give you Tyson time. Enjoy. This is Tyson. He is the ball of fluff that is in my profile and logo designs. And now he's headbutting the camera, because of course he is. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You good boy, Tyson. Are you licking the exercise bike? Are you licking the exercise bike? Yes, you will be seeing a little bit more of Tyson in my coming videos, because how could I not put him in my videos? I mean, look at him.